Have you ever wondered why a woman seems drawn to the man who doesn't chase her, who doesn't shower her with constant affection, who doesn't crumble at the first sign of her silence? You've probably seen it, the guy who bends over backward for her, who texts her every morning and night, who makes her the center of his life. He's the one she grows cold toward. Meanwhile, the man who keeps his edge, who doesn't fold to her emotional swings, who seems unbothered even when she pulls away, that's the man who suddenly becomes magnetic in her eyes. It feels unfair, even cruel. But this is the unspoken psychology of attraction. Women don't consciously tell you this. But beneath the surface, they want to be conquered not by aggression, not by force, but by presence, by strength, by your refusal to surrender yourself too easily. Picture this: a woman ignores your text for half a day. The insecure part of you wants to double down, to send another message, to check if you did something wrong. You tell yourself it's just being caring, but to her, that's weakness. She feels your panic through the screen. She senses that your world shifts with her attention. In that moment, you've already lost ground. She doesn't need to think about it logically. Her instincts read you as a man who is controlled by her validation. And when a woman feels she can control you with absence, she will test you harder, because part of her attraction is wired to resist and see if you can hold steady. Now imagine the opposite. She withdraws. She goes quiet, and you don't flinch, you don't chase, you don't beg for reassurance. You go on with your day, calm, indifferent, still rooted in yourself. That silence becomes louder than any word. She wonders why you're not collapsing under her withdrawal. She feels the absence of your neediness, and paradoxically, it pulls her back. That's the hidden game. She wants to feel your strength pressing against her doubts. That's what it means when people say women want to be conquered. Not conquered by dominance, but conquered by your ability to stay unshaken while she wavers. Here's the brutal truth: many men think over-giving equals security. They believe constant attention will cement a woman's love. But what it really does is smother her sense of desire. Think about a flame. Air makes it burn, cover it completely, and it suffocates. In the same way, when you give everything, your time, your energy, your constant availability, you remove the space in which her attraction breathes. She begins to take you for granted. She begins to wonder if you have nothing else in your life worth protecting. And soon, she begins to look past you. Let me give you a scenario. A man I once knew was dating a woman he adored. Every time she so much as hinted at needing something, he rushed to provide it. If she said she was tired, he drove across the city with her favorite food. If she mentioned another guy at work, he flooded her with reassurance, compliments, and desperate attempts to prove himself. She smiled, she thanked him, but deep down, she began to see him as small. Why? Because every act revealed his fear of losing her. Instead of her feeling conquered by his presence, he had already surrendered himself at her feet. And when she finally left, he was broken, confused, asking, "But I gave her everything." That's exactly why she left. The strategy you must adopt is simple but difficult: restraint. Stop pouring endlessly into her when she has not earned it. Stop reacting instantly to every mood shift, every silence. When she withholds, don't rush to fill the gap. Let the silence expose her own feelings. When she plays with withdrawal, hold steady in your ground. That is how you shift the dynamic. Not with louder words, not with bigger gifts, but with the quiet discipline of not being moved. Think of it this way: a woman feels safe when she knows your emotions don't collapse under pressure. Attraction isn't built by your eagerness to please, it's built by her feeling your spine, your refusal to bend at the first sign of tension. She doesn't consciously say, "I want him to be indifferent," but when you are, when you show that her moods don't control your identity, that's when her instincts lean closer. That's when she feels conquered, not because you took from her, but because you refuse to be taken from yourself. This doesn't mean you play games or act cold for the sake of it. It means you learn the art of withholding the part of you that begs for validation. It means you stop giving before she invests. It means you value your presence so much that she has to rise to meet it, not the other way around. That's the masculine frame women are unconsciously wired to test and surrender to. So I'll ask you this: have you ever chased harder the moment she pulled away, only to watch her drift even further? Have you ever felt her slip through your fingers the more you gave? And have you ever noticed how the times you were busy, focused, unbothered, that's when she suddenly wanted more of you? She doesn't test you because she hates you. She tests you because she needs to feel your strength. A woman's attraction doesn't grow in the easy moments when everything is smooth. It grows in the tension, in the pull and push of uncertainty, in the moments where she wonders, will he stand firm or will he crumble? And most men crumble. They can't handle the silence, the withdrawal, the sudden mood shift. They panic. They overreact. They try to fix things that don't need fixing, and in doing so, they reveal that they're ruled by her emotional state. That's when the respect dies, even if she never says it out loud. You've likely felt this. She pulls back. She seems colder. And you think to yourself, if I just reassure her more, if I just show her how much she means to me, she'll come closer again. But the opposite happens. The more you pour out, the more she dries up. Why? Because your reassurance is not born of calm confidence. It's born of fear. And women can smell fear. They don't need to analyze it. They sense it instantly. Your body language changes. Your words carry a pleading tone. Your energy feels unstable. In her instincts, you've already lost your footing. The trap is believing that love is maintained by constant proving. Men are raised to think, if I'm the most loyal, if I show her the most devotion, if I sacrifice everything, she will never leave. But loyalty without strength feels like weakness. Devotion without boundaries feels like desperation. Sacrifice without self-respect feels like slavery. And no woman wants to be bound to a man who has enslaved himself to her moods. Instead, you must learn the art of measured presence. It means you don't withdraw your attention completely, but you also don't let her emotional waves drag you under. When she withdraws, you don't chase. You let her come back on her own terms, because she always will if she feels your steadiness. When she grows distant, you don't panic. You simply hold your ground, rooted in your own life, your own purpose, your own rhythm. That's when she feels something deeper than affection. She feels a security. Not because you're available at every moment, but because you're immovable in who you are. Let me give you an example. A man once told me about a date he had with a woman he liked. Things had gone well for a while, but suddenly, she began to cancel plans, text less, seem colder. Instead of bombarding her with, "What's wrong? Did I do something? Please talk to me." He shifted. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He didn't demand clarity. He simply let her drift. He focused on his work, his friends, his body, his goals. 2 weeks later, she came back around, testing the waters, expecting him to be bitter or clingy. Instead, he was calm, even warm, but not over-invested. She leaned in harder than ever. Why? Because he showed her something rare, the ability to hold steady in the storm. That is the essence of conquest in attraction, not chasing her approval, but letting her feel that her emotional swings don't determine your value. You conquer by being unbothered, not because you don't care, but because you won't be owned. She can play her games, but she cannot break your frame. That's the kind of presence that both frustrates and excites her, because deep down, she wants to know if you can handle her storms. And here's something most men don't realize when a woman withdraws. Sometimes it isn't even about you. It's about her own doubts, her own cycles, her own fears. But if you take it personally and try to overcorrect, you become a mirror of her instability instead of a rock against it. When you remain calm, she can settle back into your presence. When you panic, she loses trust in you altogether. The next time you feel the urge to chase, stop and ask yourself, am I moving from strength or am I moving from fear? If it's fear, stay still. Let her silence hang in the air. Let the tension build. That silence, that absence of neediness, speaks louder than 1,000 desperate texts. This is what most men fail to see. She doesn't want to conquer you with her moods. She wants to feel that her moods don't conquer you. That's when she feels something she can't explain, desire mixed with respect, attraction tied with surrender. So let me ask you, have you ever ruined a good connection by chasing too hard when she pulled away? Have you ever felt her lose interest the more effort you poured in? And can you think of a time when your calmness, your refusal to react made her come back stronger than before? There's a moment every man faces, the moment where he realizes she doesn't love him for how much he gives, but for how much he refuses to lose himself. That realization cuts deep, because it means everything you've been taught about romance flowers, constant texting, bending over backward is only half the truth. The other half is darker, more primal. Attraction lives not in what you surrender, but in what you protect. Women want to feel your heart, yes, but they also want to feel your edge. Without it, desire collapses into comfort, and comfort alone never sustains attraction. Think of it this way. A woman is drawn to a man's mystery, not just his transparency. She wants access to you, but she also wants to feel that she hasn't unlocked every corner of your mind. If you hand over everything, your attention, your secrets, your validation before she's earned it, you strip away the tension that fuels her curiosity. She feels full too quickly, and fullness without effort turns to boredom. What she wanted was the chase, the unfolding, the gradual earning of your essence. You gave it all for free, and in doing so, you devalued yourself in her eyes. I knew a guy once who told me how he destroyed his relationship without even realizing it. He was a giver by nature. He thought, if I show her unconditional love, if I'm always there no matter what, she'll never leave. At first, she adored it. She told him she'd never met someone so devoted. But then the small shifts began. She answered texts slower. She spent more nights with her friends. When he confronted her, she said she just needed space. So he gave her more gifts, more affection, more promises that he'd always be waiting. Within 6 months, she was gone into the arms of a man who gave her less, but carried himself with more weight. The betrayal shattered him, but the truth was written in his behavior. He had given her the throne, and she never wanted it. The mistake he made is the mistake most men make. They confuse devotion with conquest. But a woman doesn't want a man who kneels to her. She wants a man who stands tall beside her. She wants to know she can lean into him without him toppling over. That's what it means to be conquered, not in the sense of oppression, but in the sense of being drawn into a presence so unshakable it silences her chaos. So what do you do when you feel yourself slipping into that trap of overgiving? The answer is restraint, not coldness, not manipulation, restraint. You learn to give without losing. You learn to show warmth without begging. You learn to reveal parts of yourself slowly, with intention, instead of dumping your entire soul on the table. This restraint creates the space where her attraction breathes, Where her desire sharpens, she leans in because you haven't collapsed. She craves you because you haven't surrendered. Here's a tactical move you can start applying today the next time she grows distant. Resist the urge to chase. Don't double text. Don't call 3 times in a row. Instead, match her energy. If she gives less, you give less. Not out of spite, but out of balance. Let her feel the weight of her own withdrawal. Let her wonder where your mind is, what you're doing, why you're not scrambling to win her back. That curiosity, that unanswered question is oxygen to her desire. Another strategy: stop over-explaining yourself. Men often think they can talk their way into her heart again. That logic and endless reassurance will fix the distance. But words don't conquer her. Presence does. Instead of explaining, live it. Show her that her pullback doesn't shake your world. Continue with your life, your work, your goals. Let her feel that she can orbit you, but she cannot replace what grounds you. This is where most men fail. They think control comes from holding tighter, but real control comes from being willing to let go. The man who can walk away is the man who holds the most power. And paradoxically, that's the man she fights the hardest to hold on to. Because in him, she feels both freedom and gravity. He doesn't need her to validate his worth. And that is exactly why she wants him more. So ask yourself this: have you ever felt the weight of giving too much, only to watch her pull further away? Have you noticed that the less a woman knows she owns you, the more she invests in keeping you? And are you willing to practice restraint, to sit in the discomfort of not chasing, just to see how differently she reacts? The hardest lesson for a man to learn is that a woman's love deepens not when you hand her your soul on a silver platter, but when you hold something back, when you remain just slightly out of reach. Not because you're playing games, but because you refuse to be consumed. Women don't consciously say this, but what truly ignites their attraction is the tension between closeness and distance, between access and denial. They want to feel you, but they want to earn it. If you give everything up front, you rob her of the very process that makes her desire grow. You've probably seen this play out. Maybe you've been with a woman who seemed fascinated by you in the beginning. She leaned in. She texted first. She was excited just to be near you. And then slowly, as you started giving her constant attention, she cooled down. You thought you were being a good man, a loving partner, but her energy told another story. She grew restless, distracted, maybe even irritable. You thought, why is she pulling away when I'm giving her more? The truth is, you suffocated the flame. Her desire wasn't nurtured by your availability, it was smothered by it. Here's what most men miss. Women crave a man they can't fully tame. They want to feel your affection, but also your independence. They want to know you care, but they also want to feel that if they vanish tomorrow, your world wouldn't collapse. That paradox, your ability to love deeply while standing fully on your own 2 feet, is what makes them obsessed. A man who can't walk away becomes disposable. A man who can walk away becomes unforgettable. Let me paint a picture. A woman starts pulling back. She cancels a date, says she's busy, and you feel the sting in your gut. Most men at this point double down. They try to fix it: more calls, more texts, more desperate invitations. But the man who understands attraction plays it differently. He doesn't fight for attention. He doesn't beg for clarity. He doesn't collapse into panic. He nods, accepts it, and keeps moving forward. He lets her feel the emptiness of her own withdrawal. He lets her sit with the silence she created. And soon, she comes back because she realizes he won't chase her into disrespect. His indifference becomes the loudest message. This is why some women leave good men for men they describe as difficult or challenging. It's not that they want toxicity, it's that they want strength, mystery, gravity. The so-called difficult man isn't necessarily cruel, he simply refuses to hand over his entire identity. He gives love, but not his spine. He listens, but he doesn't beg. He invests, but he never over-invests. That balance makes him magnetic because she feels both drawn in and kept on her toes. You need to understand something crucial. Conquest in relationships doesn't mean domination. It means you establish yourself as a man who cannot be conquered by her moods, her games, or her silence. When she storms out, you stay calm. When she withdraws, you don't chase. When she tests, you don't fail. And that steadiness awakens something primal in her. She respects you. She trusts you. She desires you because you are rare. So how do you apply this in practice? The next time she pulls back, pause, breathe, do nothing. Let the space exist. Focus on yourself. Hit the gym. Pour into your work. Spend time with friends. Let her feel that your life is already full, with or without her. When she returns and don't punish her, don't lecture. Simply continue as though you were never shaken. That calmness will speak louder than any argument. Another tactic when you feel the urge to over-explain, resist it. If she's upset and pulling away, don't drown her in apologies or clarifications. Instead, show her through your steadiness that you're not unraveling. This forces her to confront her own emotions rather than manipulate yours. Over time, she learns something vital: she can't control you with chaos. And once she realizes that, she stops trying. That's when real intimacy begins, because she surrenders to your steadiness instead of battling it. The man she craves is not the one who bends to her every mood, but the one who can look her in the eye and silently say, "I won't break for you." That unspoken strength is the conquest she secretly wants to be pulled into a presence stronger than her storms. So think about this. Have you been the man who collapses at her silence, or the man who grows calmer when she withdraws? Have you noticed how your power shifts when you hold steady instead of reacting? And are you willing to embrace the discomfort of restraint just to let her see that she cannot conquer you? Most men live their lives in quiet fear of losing a woman's interest. That fear becomes the leash around their neck. They don't realize it, but every decision, every gesture, every word is bent toward preserving her attention. That's why they text too much, give too much, apologize for things they never did wrong. They think they're building love, but what they're really building is dependency. And dependency never inspires respect. It breeds contempt. A woman doesn't want to feel she owns you. She wants to feel you choose her. Those are not the same. Ownership kills desire, because once she knows you are trapped in her hand, she loses the thrill of chasing your presence. But when you choose her deliberately, freely, from a position of strength, she feels both safe and challenged. She knows she matters, but she also knows she can't take you for granted. That duality keeps her invested. Think about it. When you were younger, maybe you liked a girl and you bent over backward to impress her. You bought her things. You were available every time she called. You laughed too hard at her jokes. And what happened? She pulled away, confused or irritated, as if your kindness suffocated her. But when you were busy, when you had your own goals, when you didn't prioritize her above everything else, that's when she noticed you more. That's when she started showing up, trying harder. The same pattern has played out in your life, again and again. And you probably didn't realize it until now. Here's why it works. A woman's attraction is tied to tension, not drama, not cruelty, but tension. She needs to feel that you're not fully conquered, that there's still more to earn, more to discover, more to prove. When you collapse into total availability, you strip that tension away. She has nothing left to chase. But when you maintain your center, when you give without giving everything, she feels that pull, that curiosity, that hunger. It keeps her awake at night, wondering, does he think of me? Does he miss me? Why does he feel so grounded even when I try to shake him? And here's the brutal truth she will test you. Every woman does. Whether she admits it or not. She'll pull back just to see if you'll chase. She'll provoke you just to see if you'll lose your temper. She'll withhold affection to see if you beg. These aren't acts of cruelty, they're acts of instinct. She's searching for a man whose frame is stronger than her tests. If you crumble, she loses faith. If you stand firm, she surrenders. That's the hidden game no one told you about. So how do you play it first? Recognize the test when it comes. If she goes silent for a day, don't flood her with messages. If she criticizes you harshly, don't explode in anger. If she withdraws affection, don't beg for it back. Instead, remain steady. Match her energy. Let her feel the natural consequence of her actions without you trying to fix or force anything. That's how she learns that your world does not revolve around her whims. That steadiness is the conquest she secretly craves. Second, build a life that is bigger than her. Women are drawn to men who have gravity, men whose lives pull others in. If she feels that your only purpose is to orbit around her, she will spin away. But if she feels that you are already a force driven by your goals, your discipline, your self-respect, she will want to be part of that orbit. That's not about arrogance. It's about identity. Who are you without her? If the answer is empty, you've already lost. If the answer is whole, she will chase to be included in that wholeness. Finally, learn the power of silence, not the passive-aggressive kind, but the calm silence of a man who doesn't need to defend or explain himself endlessly. When you don't rush to fill every gap, when you allow her to sit in her own emotions, you shift the power. She has to confront herself instead of using you as her emotional punching bag. That silence is uncomfortable at first, but it is magnetic. It says more than words ever could. I'm not afraid of losing you, because I will never lose myself. And that, in the end, is the core truth women want to be conquered not by your dominance, but by your refusal to collapse. They want to feel your presence pressing against their doubts, your steadiness overwhelming their chaos. They want to know that no matter how they test, they cannot shake your frame. That's when respect deepens. That's when attraction burns hotter. That's when they lean in fully, because they know they've met a man who cannot be broken. So I'll leave you with this. Have you recognized the ways you've let fear drive your actions with women? Can you remember the times you chased too much and lost everything? And what would it look like if, from now on, you chose to hold steady instead of collapsing? She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.